For one of the biggest scams in the entire gaming industry outside of The Day Before, which came out at the end of, was it the end of last year or the end of the year before? I can't remember, but basically, the Day Before came out, was not the game that people expected it to be, and basically ended up shutting down less than a month later. Now, Star Citizen, on the other hand, is a scam in a very different way. They are making an actual game. They are making an actual product. But the problem is that it's been in beta for basically 13 years now, ever since its initial kickstarting campaign. And due to crowdfunding, selling ships and things like that, Star Citizen has now reached $900 million in crowdfunding. So basically, people are funneling $900 million into this game, buying ships and things like that in this space game where people are able to travel around or role play in space. Basically, I feel like that's ultimately what Star Citizen has now become. And there's also this single player campaign that's supposed to be released alongside it, but I can't think about whether or not, I can't remember if it was supposed to be a separate game, that single player campaign was, or if it's alongside as part of the same package as Star Citizen itself. But yeah, Star Citizen, one of the highest funded crowdfunding campaign projects after 13 years of development, keeps bringing in more and more money, to the fact that in a whopping 6 million players added to the money pool, making the game reach $900 million in funding, which is crazy. Because if I look at the numbers here, for example, we're probably looking at, so say for example is let's round down to just 6 million and we have 900,000, right? Each Star Citizen would have had to have put in $130 into the game on average. And keeping in mind that there are ships being sold for thousands and thousands of dollars as well. So it's, I don't know, man, that's absolutely bloody insane. But yeah, and I think that this article, 80.lv, really puts it, I think, in a good perspective. If you've heard Star Citizen being called controversial, it's because after all these years of money, the game is not fully out yet, which is insane, and some consider it a scam, although players have received early access versions in 2017, and that's true, people are able to access the game a little early. But the problem is that the game itself crashes a lot during these test periods. They have an annual Star Citizen convention and things like that people are able to join in virtually and be able to experience the new stuff that's happening inside of the game, in a sense. And it's not again, like it says in this article, it's not that the developers are just taking people's money and running away with it. Maybe eventually we might get a game out of it, but who knows how long it's going to take, because again, early access in and of itself is a bit of a plague on the gaming industry as well. There are times in which it's done incredibly well. I mean, I look at Hades and Hades 2 as good examples of this, but then there are so many more examples of places not doing it right, that are obviously, raking in tons and tons of cash to no real benefit. And of course, the single player campaign is Squadron 42. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, pay to win approaches by players, that's something that to be considering of. This game has had an incredibly long history, and I feel like the bigger question is going to be, is Star Citizen ever going to come out? That's the big question that I want to ask you guys, and I want to present to you guys right now. Will Star Citizen ever come out? It's reached $900 million in funding. It's had more than 6 million players add money to that 900 mil, effectively causing an average of about $130 per person to put into that basic pool of money that was raised as a whole. So the question then becomes, with all of this money raised, will this game ever come out? Will we ever see this game come to be? Because the thing is that the time between GTA 5 to GTA 6 is going to be shorter than the amount of time it took from the initial Kickstarter campaign for Star Citizen till now. Or till it even releases. Who knows if it ever will? That's an even bigger question to ask ourselves. So I want to ask you guys that very simple question. Will Star Citizen ever come out? And if it does, will it be any good? Because we've had other games like, what was it called? Elite Dangerous, for example, which was a really good game. Unfortunately, the servers have shut down on the console side, which is kind of sad to know about. But outside of that, was it really worth like waiting 13 years for a game like this? Honestly, it's never worth waiting so long for a game to release, especially that's this long. You know what I mean? And again, when we're talking about games like, say for example, Duke Nukem Forever, which came out to become an awful game and was one of the longest development cycles of all time. We had games like Final Fantasy Versus 13, which was in development for ages before coming out as Final Fantasy 15. The Last Guardian was also in development for forever, and eventually did come out. So there are lots of games that are in development for a long ass amount of time that do eventually end up coming out at some point. But it's also worth mentioning that this is like the next level on how long a game can be in development for, that can be in beta for, that can be in early access for. I feel like people have taken the concept of early access and crowdfunding and taken it to an extreme level, and I think that Star Citizen is definitely an example of that. And like I said, I'm only going over the fact that it reached $900 million. There is an absolutely fascinating history behind Star Citizen that I am not even like skilled enough to make. So I do highly recommend seeking out information if you are interested in what might very well be the biggest scam in gaming history, or at least certainly the biggest crowdfunding series of events that I think we'll ever see. And it may very well end up being the longest in development game of all time, potentially. But only time will tell how things are ultimately going to wrap up. But my question still stands. Do you guys think Star Citizen will ever come out? Will we ever see the single player campaign Squadron 44? When I say see, I mean like, will we be able to actually play the game with our own hands? But with all of that being said though, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year. And with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.